All right, so here we are still working with our quadratic formula. And for our class, we go ahead and instead of doing the whole formula at the same time, we usually go ahead, work on the discriminant, which is that whole plus or minus square root section of the quadratic formula, which in here I'm going to call D. And then what we do is we go ahead and put that D in place of this big chunk, all right? And then we only have to figure out another few small items to finish our quadratic formula and get our solution or solutions that we have. All right, so I encourage you to work these out before I do. Take a time to pause the video, work them out, see if you get the same thing I do. All right, so our first example, first identify our A, B, and C. So A in this case is 5. B is -7, remember to take the sign with it, and C is equal to 2. And I'm going to plug that into my discriminant part, so I need B squared, and 4 is part of the formula, times A times C, right? And then that's going to be square rooted, and then the plus or minus will add on after, right? So B in this case is -7, A is 5, C is 2. All right, so we have the square root of 49. Okay, so no matter what, when we square a positive number or a negative number, it's going to be positive. And we're still going to have our minus because nothing else is negative within it. And we have 20 times 2. All right, so 20 times 2 is 40. Right, which gives me the square root of 9, and that's plus or minus, and so I should have plus or minus 3. Now all you have to do is take this 3, plug it into the rest of the formula, and we are ready to go. So I should have 2 real solutions. Okay, so I have my opposite of B. Notice I never say negative B because it depends on what B is. Plus or minus my 3, which I already got, all over 2 times my A. My B in this case is -7, and my A is +5. What's going to happen is this is going to change my -7 into a +7. So my 2 solutions are 7 plus 3, and 2 times 5 is 10, or 7 minus 3 over 10. So we have a plus version and we have a minus version. So 7 plus 3 is 10. 10 over 10 is 1. And 7 minus 3 is 4 over 10, which I have to go ahead and simplify, and I get 2 over 5. And it's okay if we get a fraction. And there are my 2 real solutions for this. And one's a whole number, one's a fraction. All right, let's go ahead, and here's the last 2 examples we're going to do just for this short video today. I encourage you to work them out before I do. All right, so we want to look at our A, our B, and our C. A in this case is 4, B is -4, C is -1. All right, I'm going to plug that into my discriminant piece, so B squared minus 4AC, a square root and a plus or minus. B is -4, A is 4, C is -1. All right, now this -1 is going to do a sign change on that back end. So I have 4 squared, which is 16. And I'm going to treat this like any other negative. So negative times a negative gives me a plus. It's going to change my sign. And I have 16 plus 16. All right. Have to go ahead and add them together. So I have 32. And plus or minus. All right. Now this is not going to be this is not a perfect square. All right, so we will have to see if it breaks down. Okay, so we have 16 and 16 got us there. So what times what times what is 32, and do we have a perfect square in there? That's what we need to figure out. All right. First, let's go ahead and set it up, because even if you can't simplify the square root, we can go ahead and still set up our two answers. All right. So we should have the opposite of my b, so we should have 4 plus or minus the square root of 32 over 2 times a, and that should give us 8. All right, so first we need to see if 32 breaks down. All right, so I have a 2, I have a 16. Okay, so I have a perfect square of 16 in there. Okay, so 32, we have our 4. Let's keep it easy. 4 plus or minus. The square root of 16 is 4. The 2 is going to stay inside. Square root of 2 over 8. Okay. This is still pretty good, but we could simplify it even further. But we can go ahead and factor out a 4 from here and here. And I know I said we were done with factoring, or you could think of it as we're going to take a 4 out of everything I circled. Okay, and we're going to divide all 3 of those pieces by 4. So we'll have 1 plus or minus 1 square root of 2, or just square root of 2. And 8 divided by 4 is 2, and that would be our simplified answer. All right. If you can get here, that's most of the points right there, because remember we're talking about quadratic formula at this point. You should be able to simplify the square roots also. But anything that, what I have circled in blue, if you can get me that, that is most of the points. Okay? Let's look at the last one. So my A is -1. My B is +4. My C is -2. Set it up so I have B squared minus 4 times A times C with a square root and a plus or minus. B is 4. A is -1. C is -2. Now what's going to happen on this end here is I have 3 negatives, so it's still going to say minus, because a negative times a negative is a positive, but a positive times another negative is a negative. So this is going to stay minus. So I have 16 minus 8. Again, it's a square root with plus or minus, which gives me plus or minus the square root of 8. And again, this is not a perfect square. This one's a little bit easier than 32 to break down though, because it's 4 times 2. And 4 is a perfect square. So this will be plus or minus 2 square roots of 2. But again, if you can get me to the main piece, which is opposite of B, so -4 plus or minus square root of 8 over 2 times A, so -2. This one's a little tricky with the negatives, and honestly, if you left it like this, I would not be horribly upset at you, because there's a lot of little details that go along with the signs. All right. If you wanted to break it down and get another point, okay, you could go ahead and I said -4 plus or minus 2 square roots of 2 over -2. You could do that. And then when we start simplifying, it gets a little crazy. And we have lots of sign issues. So I would be okay if you left it here. But if we didn't want to, we would have to separate them out and work with the signs. Okay? I am actually okay for the idea of what we're doing right now to leave it right here. And don't mess with the signs. Don't try to do anything with those, because you're going to cause some sign errors down the line. I want to know if you can do the quadratic formula with this little section, what we're doing. Okay? So go ahead, work on the practice problems, and I will see you on class or in the next video.